Okay, so this video is going to be just going over the whole SAT, because if you go into the SAT without knowing what you're going to be given, you're going to be like this meme right here, like your stress level is going to be the officer in the fire drill. You're going to be freaking out. So that's what this video is for, so we can understand what is in the SAT. So the SAT is 4 sections, and it is a total score of 1600. The score is composed of 2 scores, a score for English and a score for math. The English score is going to be 800. The math score is going to be 800. 800 plus 800 is 1600. So again, there's 2 score sections, but each section is composed of 2 different sections. So the English section is composed of reading and writing, and then, or I should say the English score is composed of 2 sections, reading and writing, and the math score is composed of 2 sections, math no calculator and math calculator. And then there is an optional section, the optional essay. So that one's, again, optional, depends on the colleges you're applying to. Some of them don't require the essay, but most of them do. So most of you should be taking the SAT with essay. So again, the English score is composed of 2 sections, the reading section and the writing section. Together, when you put these scores together, you're gonna get a maximum. The maximum you can get is 800. So it's 800 for the English score. So again, the English score is composed of the reading and writing sections. The reading section is 65 minutes and 52 questions. The writing section is 35 minutes and 44 questions. And the math score, again, is also 800. It's composed of 2 sections, the math no calculator section, the math calculator section. The math no calculator is 25 minutes, 20 questions. And the math calculator is 55 minutes, 38 questions. So how do you score these? So this is useful for you just to know how they're scoring it, and then it's also useful because when you do your own practice test, you can know how to score it. So the English score, again, is composed of the reading and writing sections. So the first thing you have to do to score your English part, you have to get the amount of questions that you got right for the reading section. So let's say hypothetically you got 46 questions correct out of 52 in the reading. And then let's say that for the writing section you got 38 questions out of 44 correct. Then for the next step, you're going to use this conversion table. So this conversion table is where the curve for the SAT comes out to be. If you look just really quickly at the math section score, you see that at the very bottom it starts with 800. There's 3 scores that would be 800. If you remember, 800 is the maximum you can get on that section. So if you get 0 wrong, 1 wrong, or 2 wrong, you're going to get an 800. Then it starts going down. It depends on how easy the test was or how good people did. If the whole country in general did really bad on that test, the curve is going to be lower, meaning that more people or more scores are going to be correspondent to 800. If a lot of people did really good on the test, then maybe only 1 score will be 800, and then if you get 1 wrong, it'll go down to 790. So this conversion table is where the curve happens. So what you have to do for the English score is you have to find, again, what I said, your raw score, which is the number of answers you got correct. So for reading, you got 46 correct. So we're going to match up the RAS score column, the blue column, with the reading test score column, the middle column. So you look for 46 in the RAS score column, the blue column, and then if you match it up with the column of reading test, you see that you get 35. So that is the reading test score, 35. Then you do the same thing for writing. You do 38. 38 is your raw score because that's the number of answers you got correct. You match it up with the writing and language test score column, which is the last column. So if you go to 38 in the blue column and you match it with the last column, you get the number 34. So 34 is the score for writing. So the next step for this is you add those scores that you just got. So we ended up getting the conversion table gave us 35 for reading and 34 for writing. So that's why we're going to add those numbers up, 35 plus 34, and that's going to be 69. And then we have to, since it's out of 800, we need to turn that into 100, into a number that has 3 digits, right? Not just 2. So then that's why you multiply by 10, or you just add a 0, it's the same thing. So then since 69 is the sum that we got, we multiply by 10. It's going to give us 690. So you got 690 in the English section out of 800 points. For the math section, or the math score, you do something similar, except you don't have to add the scores or have get separate conversion scores, because it's just less questions in the math sections, so that it's easier. So you get the amount of questions that are right for the math no calculator section. Let's say, hypothetically, you got 15 out of 20. And then you get the amount of questions that are right for the math calculator section. Let's say, hypothetically, you got 30 out of 38. You add those scores, 15 and 30, which is, again, the number of questions you got correct. So 15 and 30 would be 45. So then you use the conversion table to get your score. So you go to the blue column, look for 45. You match it with the first column, which is the math section score. So 45 is corresponding to 680. So that means that for the math score, you got 680 out of 800 points. And then again, you add those up to equal your whole SAT score. Again, since the maximum you can get is 800, if you get the maximum on each score, it would be 800 plus 800, which is 1600, which is why the SAT is out of 1600. So in this case, you got 680 on the reading and 680 on the math, and then 690 on the reading, and that gives you a total of 1370. And that's a great score, and that's how you end up getting scores. So now I'm gonna bring to your attention how important SAT scores are in comparison to other things. So you can see here a very prestigious school. I'm using examples of very prestigious schools because we know them to be rigorous or competitive, stuff like that. So Stanford, you can see that for the math section, the middle range was between 720 and 800. That doesn't mean that's the only scores people got. Some people might have gone a little lower. Some people might have gotten higher, but you can't get higher than 800, But yeah, so for math, people got between maybe 720, 800 for the math score. For reading and writing, some people got, or the people accepted got between 700 and 770. So those scores are, they're pretty high, right? And then, but look at their GPAs. You have, look at the column of percent of admitted class. So applicants doesn't really matter, though, so just the people that applied. But then the people that got accepted and enrolled in Stanford, 4.0 and above, 75%, fair amount. 3.7 and 3.99, 21%. Below 3.7, 4%. That's, I did the math, and based on the amount of people that went to Stanford, that's a whole 82 people who had below 3.7 GPA that went to Stanford. You know this school to be really rigorous and really competitive, so you might think that the only way you can get in is you have like a 5.0 GPA and like a 1500 SAT, and you have to have found a cure to cancer. You can see that's not true. They really do look at you at your whole life. You could have had B's, maybe even C's in your classes and still get into Stanford. But you can see that it's what is most competitive is the SAT. You can there's many reasons why somebody might have a low GPA score. Maybe the teacher that you had was very unreasonable, and it made your class incredibly difficult, and there was no way that you could ever get an A. Nobody got an A, maybe. Maybe you were having issues at home. Maybe your mom was sick. Maybe she had cancer. Maybe a family member died, or maybe you were in a very bad situation, very dangerous situation. Maybe you had a lot of responsibility having to take care of your siblings because of an issue at home. I don't know. But there's so many reasons why people can get B's or C's. And that doesn't mean that you're not worthy to go to a really good school. And as you can see on the next ones, you can see that this is that's a trend. Yale, again, a really school known that it's supposed to be really good. You have the average math section, or the average SAT as a whole, 1540. 25th percentile is 1490, and 75th percentile is 1600. So the 25th percentile means that 25% of the people that got accepted were below 1490. That's what that 25th percentile means. And then the 75th percentile means 75% of the people that got accepted were below 1600. So that means there were people that got 1490 or less. It's 25%, which is, it's a fair amount, right? So that were below that. But look at the average GPA, 4.19. That's not incredibly high. There's many people, probably top top 20 at least have a GPA that's probably higher than that. Just because you got a B, it doesn't mean that you aren't worthy to apply to these schools. Let's look at another one. Emory. Emory is another really good school. It's in Georgia. Average GPA 3.78, 399, unweighted. Unweighted. If you had A's all of your school career, you would have a 4.0 unweighted GPA. That means that almost nobody, or the average GPA means that in the average student that got accepted to Emory had B's. They had B's or a C, who knows, and yet they still went. But look at their SAT scores. You have evidence-based reading and writing scores 690 to 750, and again they're doing it by 25th and 75th percentile. SAT math 700, 790. So the scores for the SAT are high, but the GPAs aren't necessarily what we might have thought these schools required or these schools wanted. So just because you had a B doesn't mean that you can't go. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough to go. It just means that did you learn? If you actually learn in those classes, you can do really good with the SAT, especially with the instruction that I'm going to give you in the future. But as you can see, like these schools, you can still go. Like you are still good enough to go. Most people, obviously. The University of Pennsylvania, SAT reading, you have 680 to 750. SAT math, you have 690 to 770. And then the average GPA, 3.93. 3.93, and I'm pretty sure this is weighted. I think I read where I got this from, said weighted GPA 3.93. Not only is SAT scores important in balancing out maybe a lowish GPA, but also extracurriculars. If all you did was nothing, if you didn't do anything and you got a really good SAT score but a low GPA, that might not be the best thing. But if you actually were out there, if you did sports, if you did community service, if you were involved in a lot of things, or maybe just one thing, but you were involved in it so much that it grew as a passion, and you can even write an essay about it and make an amazing essay about it, and you have high SATs, a pretty good SAT score, but a low GPA, you'll be fine. You'll be perfectly fine. Brown University. Brown University is an Ivy League, and it's known, again, to be really good. It has a really good curriculum. You can see on the green dots are accepted people. You can see that there are some people towards the 1500s, between 1500 SAT and 1600, there's dots that are below 4.0 GPA, unweighted, which means they had to get B's. They had to get B's or they had to get a C because that brought their GPA down. It's the only way their GPA could be brought down. So they are still going, but they have a high SAT score. You can see that the denied people that read have lower SAT scores and lower GPAs. You can see somebody up here who had a 4.0 GPA unweighted, which means all they did was get A's in high school, but below 1300 SAT. So SAT is very important. Columbia, again, very good school. You can see that it says that the middle 50% of admitted students scored between 1490 and 1580. Now, you might be wondering, like, yeah, okay, now I might want to go to these schools. I might want to apply, but I don't have money to go to this school. Private schools have a lot of money. Private schools have a lot of money. They have a lot of money to give. They get a lot of funding because they're private, because especially the prestigious ones, they're known, they have a name to them, so they have a lot of money. Most of these private schools, they not only claim, but they do. They say that they will meet 100% of your shown financial need. And they're actually so rich that they consider low income 80,000 or less. So if you go to this website that I'm going to show you, you can see schools that consider, all the schools in the United States that consider themselves to be consider themselves to meet 100% of financial need that is shown. You can, if we go down, let's see if we can find Brown universities right there. Caltech, Colby College, Columbia University, Cornell, Dartmouth, Duke, Emory, Georgetown, all the like really big universities, Harvard, Macalester, MIT, Northeastern, Occidental College, Pomona College, Princeton University, Rice University, Scripps College, Stanford University, like all the Tufts, University of Chicago, University of North Carolina, Notre Dame, Pennsylvania, USC, University of Virginia, Vanderbilt. Like there's so many good schools. and you can go, like, you can pay, especially if you're not rich. That's good. So now we're gonna go into the tips that you can use for as a whole for the SAT. Oops, it's fine. That you can use as a whole for the SAT, so you can apply these to all the sections in the SAT. So the first step is for actually practicing the SAT and scheduling the SAT. You have to schedule days to practice, and you have to stick to those dates. I cannot do everything for you. There is not enough time for me to do everything for you. You do have to do some of it on your own. You must practice. You cannot go into a volleyball game when you have never ever in your life played volleyball and expect to do good or to do perfect. You cannot. You have to practice. You have to practice. So I think my main tip or my main suggestion is that you start with individual tests and then build up from there. What I mean by individual tests is just one section, just the reading section or just the math section, and you should start by not timing yourself first, by first developing skills and developing the strategies that I'm going to teach you. Then you can start timing yourself. That's what I suggest, and that is what I think is the most useful and is going to be the most beneficial to you. You start with individual tests first, not timed, then you build up from there, start going with more than one test, and start timing yourself. Eventually, end up doing full SATs, the whole 4 sections. So you can see, for example here, a sample calendar. So if you don't have a planner, go get a paper, draw like 7 columns, like 4 rows, and make a schedule for yourself to do this. And you have to stick to those dates. These tests aren't even too long if you do them individually too. The reading section 65 minutes. Just go an hour later to bed, or just or just do a homework really fast, or instead of taking an hour to watch TV, take that hour just to take the SAT. It's not going to be forever. You're not going to be taking an hour of your day every day and not having that TV time or that friend time or that family time forever. It's just for a little while because you need to prepare for the SAT. I promise it'll end, it'll be over, but right now you really do need to prepare for the SAT. So here's a sample one. For example, Sunday you do a reading section, just one section. Tuesday you do a writing section. It's only 35 minutes, just 35 minutes of your day. Friday, you do maybe a no calculator section. That's 20 minutes of your day. Sunday, calculator section. Then the next week, you can do half of the SAT, like the reading and writing section. And then the next day, the math sections. Then you can do practice essay. Then you can do a full SAT. But see how it is spread out so you don't go crazy. Try to use your weekends. Again, it's not your full weekend that's being taken away. Just an hour, just 2 hours. This is my suggested... for those of you who are going to take the October SAT, this is what I suggest you do for your schedule. It is very tight because there is not enough time. There is not a lot of time left to practice. I'm going to talk about this. I talked about this more in the actual program in person because then I have more time. But this is, maybe take a screenshot of it if you are determined to do it on October 6th. Try to follow this to the best of your ability. I really suggest you change it to November so you have more time to practice and more time with me. But if you can't, then I understand. But this is what I really suggest that you follow. Then I have another tip is bubbling. Bubbling can take time. It actually can really very much take your time away during the test. So here's what I suggest. This is what I do. This is what I suggest you do. This is my suggestion. When you're going to be taking the test and you're not going to bubble after every time you answer. So you answer number 1, you bubble the answer. You answer number 2, you bubble the answer. You are not going to do that. Do not do that. That's going to take a lot of time. So what you're going to do is you're going to answer a whole page. And when I mean page, I mean something like this. Like you have the open test in front of you. You have a left side and you have a right side. And you're going to answer everything on the left and everything on the right. Before you flip the page, you're going to bubble in. So here's how you're going to bubble. Let's say I'm going to go to bubbling sheet so you can understand. So let's say you answered everything on the left, everything on the right. You started with question 1. And here is the order in which your answers were. 1 was A, 2 was B, 3 was C, 4 was D. So in your mind, you're going to repeat that A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. So 1, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. And then you're going to go to your bubbling sheet, and you're going to bubble it in all at once. So one, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. Obviously, this is harder because I don't have pencil and I don't have a flat surface exactly, so it's not as pretty. But it'd be a lot faster when you have your own hand on an actual pencil. And then you're going to go to 5, and then what's 5? Let's say it's D, C, B, D, D, C, B, D. So you're going to keep that in your brain as you bubble in. So D, C, B, D, D, C, B, D, D, C, B, D. Then the next ones. There's 2 more. Okay, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A. It's a lot faster, obviously, when you actually have the answers in front of you. I'm just making up bubbles. But that's what you're going to do. You're going to fill in all the bubbles at once every time you have to turn a page. You're going to fill it up all at once because then that takes a lot of time. You can just focus on the questions you're answering. You don't have to bubble in between each question. And this way, you can just get it all bubbled in at once. And it's going to be, I promise you, it's going to be a lot faster. And make sure you do that with your head, with your repeating the answers, because that's going to help you make sure that you don't mess up while you bubble. So you can do like A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, so you know that it's A, B, C, D. And that way you can also not have to look back and forth, like, okay, one is A, one is A, right? Yes. B is B is B. And then, because then that's going to take more time when you have to look back and forth from the answer to the bubble sheet to the answer to the bubble sheet. So that's why you put that in your brain, or repeat that in your brain, so you don't have to go back and see what 2 was or what 3 was. You could just know the order in your brain. Now my next tip is, this is a really big one. What do you think that is most important or affects the way you perform on the SAT? Here we have something is 50%. 50% of it is one thing, and then 25% of it is something else, 25% of it is something else. Maybe pause the video, think about it. What factors do you think affect the performance of the SAT, your performance on the SAT? Here's the reality. Mentality is the most important thing. 25% of it is strategy, knowing how to take the test, and then 25% of it is actually knowing the content. You can't do the math section, of course, if you don't know how to add or you don't know how to do an equation. But the main thing that affects the SAT and how you do is your mentality. You cannot go into the test thinking, I'm going to do horrible. I'm going to do so bad. I am not smart enough for this. Do not do that. Or this is too hard. Like, this is already too hard. Like, question number 1, oh my God, I can't answer it. This is too hard already. And then that's going to end up being your mentality during the test. That is not. You cannot do that. The mentality is the most important thing. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to do good. I promise you, if you do not believe in yourself, you're not going to do good. A lot of the times, these negative thoughts are not in our conscious, but they're in our subconscious. Subconsciously, we don't believe in ourselves. Subconsciously, we think we're not good enough, we're not smart enough. But that is what's going to mess you up. I promise you, that is what's going to mess you up. So again, one of my other tips, do not doubt yourself. Do not doubt yourself. You cannot doubt yourself. When you're doing the test, you think it's A, okay. It's A, continue. Do not doubt yourself. If you doubt yourself, that is one of the biggest mistakes you can do. You have to believe in yourself. If you think it's A, put A. I'm going to give you another tip to make sure that just to make sure you're right. Okay? So, remind yourself of this. This is a very important tip. They have to give you everything. This is a very important tip, especially in the math section. A lot of the times we approach a math question and think, I can't possibly do this. Like, there's no way I can actually solve this. They don't give me enough. They have to. They have to give you everything. There's no way that it seems like it because we're closed-minded. We're thinking, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, this is too hard. But they have to give you everything. So when you're feeling like that, when you're feeling like, I have no idea how to solve this, like, there's no way I can do this, close your eyes, breathe, tell yourself, they have to give me everything. I have to be able to solve this. There has to be a way. And then try again. Because just remind yourself, they have to give you everything. A lot of times, especially me, when I would take the test, I actually would think, like, I can't, there's no way I can solve this. Like, I don't have enough information. I need the radius, or I need to know what y equals. But it turns out that I don't. It ends up, I read the explanation, and it turns out, once again, I didn't. I did have everything I needed. So once I started reminding myself they have to give you everything, my mind would start thinking more complex. It would start thinking out of the box. It would start thinking like, okay, maybe what I'm thinking right now, it's not good because they have to give me everything. There has to be another way to solve it. So let's think again. Let's think something else. So remind yourself, they have to give you everything. There's another big one. Do not leave any questions blank. If you leave a question blank, you're gonna get it wrong for sure. It is a horrible, horrible mistake to leave a question blank. Always fill it in. If you for some reason run out of time, you can answer the last 10 questions. Instead of bubbling in random bubbles, bubble them in a row. So let's say that I couldn't answer 47 through 52. I'm not gonna do this. I'm just bubble in like random bubbles. Bubble a whole row, because this is gonna increase your chances of getting a question correct, right? It's if you do it randomly, there's also a chance that you're gonna get it right. But if you do it a whole row, there's more of a chance you're gonna get it right. So do not ever leave a question blank. What's another way other than the bubbling thing to make sure you don't leave a question blank and try to make a very good educated guess? You always have to have an evidence-based reason for why you're choosing a certain answer, whether it be a mathematical fact, a grammatical fact, or evidence from the passage that you read. I'm going to go more into depth with this in each video, and the videos based on each section. But when I say have an evidence-based reason, don't just choose an answer because it looks right. Choose an answer because you thought this is how a comma is used. So I'm going to choose this answer because this is using a comma correctly. Think to yourself, commas are supposed to use to separate items in a list. Here, items are being separated, so there's a comma. That's an evidence. That's evidence, and that is going to increase your chances of you getting the question correct. And then you think that's the right answer? Good. Continue. Do not doubt yourself. Do not be like, wait, maybe commas aren't used like that. No. Do not do that. Trust yourself. You are correct. Most of the time you're correct. You are smart. You are smart enough. Just choose the answer. Continue. And then if it's math, be like, okay, well, I know that the formula is this, so this is the right answer. And that's it. Continue. So make sure you always have a reason why you're choosing an answer, not just because, oh, well, I think this is right. That's going to increase your chances of getting it right. If you have to guess, that's going to increase your chances of guessing and getting it right. And that's obviously going to make you have a better score. And then lastly, simplify what you are being asked. So it's often very difficult to understand questions, understand passages when you are in a time constraint. Sometimes they ask you a question and then though on a passage maybe, and the part you have to read is really long, and then you kind of don't know what's happening. So here's what I think you should always do. You need to simplify what you are being asked. So let's say we have the sentence, I ran to the store, though running makes me really tired, sweaty, dizzy, and weak, because my mom, who is the only person in the world who understands me, needed assistance. It's such a long sentence, it has so much detail that once you get to the end of it, you kind of forget what started it, right? Like what was in the beginning of it. Let's say there's a question on it that asks you, why did you run to the store? You have to read. Should you really read the whole sentence again? That's gonna waste time. You have to think about it, right? You have to think about what the right answer is. You don't read all of it. So what you do is simplify it to the core. What is the sentence? This super long sentence, just trying to say what is the basic of it. I ran to the store. Though running makes me really tired, sweaty, dizzy, and weak. That's just all detail. You don't need that to understand the sentence, right? Because my mom, who is the only person in the world who understands me, needed assistance. That part is just detail. Like, all you need is this. I ran to the store because my mom needed assistance. That's all you need. That's what the sentence is saying. The rest is detail. So you have to simplify it. If you need to analyze a sentence and it's long like this and you don't need the detail, like the detail is completely irrelevant, simplify it so that it is faster. That way you don't have to read the whole sentence. That's going to save you honestly 20 seconds, and those 20 seconds are very valuable when it comes to the SAT. So that's going to save you a lot of time. Also, let's say what if a question is, what is a synonym for assistance? And then you have choices. Let's say one of the synonyms is help. So what you should do is plug in help for assistance and see if it works in the sentence. Should you read the whole sentence? That's going to take so much time, especially when you have 4 answer choices and you're plugging each of them into the word assistance, right? It's gonna take away so much time from you. Like, why would you read the whole sentence? Just break it down into the simple things. I ran to the store because my mom needed help. Or let's say another synonym, an answer choice is food. I ran to the store because my mom needed food. Which one's the right answer? Help is the closest to assistance, right? It means assistance. And we saved time because we didn't have to read the whole super long sentence to plug in and check if the word we plugged in makes sense. So simplify everything you are asked, especially in the writing and reading sections. Simplify what you are being asked to the core of it, to just the basic terms, the basic simple sentence, just a subject, a verb, and maybe a little detail at the end. Just what is happening, the basics, take away the detail if it's not needed.